Ta-ta! Well, here she is. 1966 F500. Big sexy hips. Single cab because they never came with crew cabs. Well, some did, I guess. But they're really hard and expensive to find if you do find them in good shape. Now this old gal is in excellent condition. Shitty paint, but paint's easy. Couple of tiny bits of rust in the floorboard. Couple of tiny dents in the rear quarters. But overall, she's in great shape. So this is going to be the new project to replace the Dodge. So what's in plan for this truck to make it modern and reliable and no computers is we're basically going to take the cab off this old girl and transplant it onto a new chassis. Now a couple of months back I was looking around for axles, possibly to replace axles under the old Dodge that we've got or the International, and I picked up a 2009 F550 chassis with axles and exhaust and drive shaft and a whole bunch of stuff, which got me to thinking, if I could put an old cab on that modern chassis with disc brakes, better, newer suspension, all that sort of stuff, and that'd be a great platform for a tow rig. So follow me over here again and we'll show you the chassis. Here is the new platform. We're going to put that cab for the 66 F550 under this, sorry, F500 under this modern F550 chassis. Say disc brakes, coil springs in the front. It's built Ford tough, unfortunately, because I'm really not a Ford guy. But she is sexy, and I do have this stuff now, so we're going to build a Ford, and my friends in Australia, who I grew up with, are going to be very surprised, as I'm really a Holden guy through and through, and Land Rover, obviously, because I own multiple Land Rovers. But of the big three, I am really a Holden / Chevy guy, not a Ford. But we're going to build a Ford, and she's sexy. Alright, so we didn't have a steering wheel puller, so we got a little bit of plate, drilled 2 holes, the width of the threads of the puller threads in the steering wheel, made our own. I think, yoo-hoo! Alright, so we have the tunnel cover out, the steering column and clutch plate cover down here out. I also disconnected the speedo from the cable. That way the cable can stay with the chassis until we got the cab off. Then I'll pull the cable off the gearbox when it's easy to get to. And the most bizarre thing I found, to get the speedo cable off from the back of the speedo, there was this keyed lock. It wasn't the ignition key, it was a different key, but a keyed lock that covered the nut on the speedo cable on the back of the Speedo. How bizarre is that? And it had a keyed lock covering that, so you couldn't just easily disconnect the Speedo for the kilometers and so forth. So that was interesting. I just drilled the lock out and then kind of pried it apart and came off and was able to do it. So so next I think we move up under the hood and we're going to get the radiator out, because the cab has to come back up at an angle to get over the column and the gear shift, because I don't want to cut them off. I want to leave them as they are. I don't really want to disconnect the column either. So I'm going to get the radiator out, and then we can kind of, when we go to lift the cab, we'll tilt it up so we can lift it up and back and hopefully clear the fan and everything else in the front there. And so let's work on under the hood. We'll get the choke disconnected, the accelerator cable disconnected. So all the wiring I think is disconnected already. And we'll just find everything is connected and disconnected. Alright. I think it's pretty much time to get the hood off too. Come on. Woo-hoo. Come on, fan. That looks much better. Now my plan is to get that radiator re-cored and use that as the radiator for the big Cummins in here, because that's a pretty big radiator. And it's an old brass one, which is pretty cool. Next, fan blade. And then I think all I got left then, I think, is body mounts. And then I can lift the cab off. That's what you're all waiting for. I know. This weighs a ton. Or 4. They certainly don't make trucks out of steel like this anymore. In fact, they barely even make trucks out of steel these days. Scratching the paint. It might be a while before that's back on there. These are the rims, 22 and a halves. This is a full-size tire, which is about 40 inches. So if I go for the smaller tires, they're about 38, so about an inch lower, so about 2 inches overall, which I think will fit a little better in the fenders. And that's the gist of it. Now, yes, the axle has to come higher to be centered, but probably not much. Because by the time I get that 8.3 litre Cummins in here, that chassis is going to sag. It's going to settle quite a bit, I think. Probably 2 or 3 inches. We'll find out tomorrow, because the next day or two I'll pop the cab back off. I'll grab the Cummins and see if I can strap and drop it in there and somewhat hold it to see what sort of compression I get on the springs with that weight. Plus we're going to add the cab and gearbox, so a little more than what it will just with the engine. So right now this cab is sitting about 2 inches higher than the F550 cab mount, standard cab mounts. So at this point I can't lower it because of the inner fenders, but the height of that engine will just fit in right now under the hood. So if I leave it at this height, I don't have to trim the inner fenders. I just put 2 inch taller cab mounts on the front, or midway ones. I mean, I could cut them off and re-weld them, but it's probably just easier. I believe the holes will line up from what I've been told. So anyway, 2 inch blocks there will fit the engine under the hood. These wheels seem to fit the fenders, will fit them pretty good. Alright guys, here we are a couple of days later. So we got the cab set up off to the side here. I spent a lot of hours with measuring tape, going back and forth between the cab, this, the engine, everything. And let me show you what I found. And surprisingly how not that bad this is going to be. Alright, let's take a look. Alright, so here's the 2009 F550 chassis. So basically I measured the height from the cross member here up to where the hood will be, and I got 36 inches. And I need 36 inches for the engine. So I plan on cutting out a section here, about dropping the centerpiece about 2 inches. That'll give me an extra 2 inches to drop the engine that little bit more. And that was with the cab sitting on these front cab mounts as they are standard. I needed a 2 inch block to set the cab at the right height to just fit the engine under. So I took these blocks off the 66 chassis. I've ordered new cab mounts, rubbers. So that actually sit just a hair higher as well, plus this will give me about an extra inch. So cab will be an inch lower than when I tested. Cab will be an inch lower. That'll be 2 inches lower. So that'll give me plenty of height clearance under the hood. Dropping that 2 inches, I may need to, this steering dampener, which is really bent up and smashed, connects to here. That may be just in the way of the bottom of the engine, so this will have to be lowered 2 inches, 3 inches to clear the front of the engine. No big deal, I think. There's no real geometry to that except for the fact you just can't hit anything and it takes the dampening out of it. Although apparently, I'm not sure how that works, but there is a, maybe not, a double dampener that mounts down lower you can get, I think I've seen online. Anyway, worry about that at a later date. That's the least of my worries. And I think that's pretty good for there. Now, once I get my engine mounts, I'll be able to see where they end up setting back here. When I come back up next time with this plate to weld in there, set the engine back in, put the mounts on, then I'll figure out what plates I need to weld on to mount the engine there. Now the engine is offset 2 or 3 inches to the right hand side of the truck, which is North American passenger side. So the original engine in this truck was also offset by about that much. I would say 2 inches offset that way. Now if we come over to the cab, and if we notice the hump in the middle here, we can come back, it is also offset about 2 inches to the passenger side, which ironically is freaking perfect. Now the top of the engine, the top of the valve cover does fit below this lip, so I'm only modifying underneath that lip, and I'll probably have to go back about 4 inches into the cab. The inner fenders will only need about maybe an inch, 2 inches. Maybe I'll cut the inner fenders off to this level right here, this crease here, and similarly over there, to clear the chassis rails, but only in one short section where the chassis rail goes up and down. The other clearance issue I may have is the turbo downpipe going back. It's going to go into the cab, I think, so that lessens our area for the air conditioning. But there is a backup option for the air conditioning to mount there. So overall it's pretty good. Now the steering column, I'll have to put the chassis back on again. The steering column normally comes out in that triangle under there. I think it may need to come out just above that seam right there. Right there. If that's the case, then I may need to modify the dash slightly to get the column and everything the right angle, but we'll see when I put it back on next. That really is a problem for later, because we can make it work. All the pedals I think have to go that way about 1.5 inches. Let's take a look inside. Now the original column in here is actually offset to the center of the gauge by about 1.5 inches, which is kind of goofy and weird looking. So if we move the column back 1.5 inches this way and figure out how to move all the pedals, or at the very least the brake pedal to the left 1.5 inches, that'll allow the accelerator to come across 1.5 inches, 2 inches, which will allow a little more room for the engine to go in there. Now that original heater box is going to come out and make way for the engine to fit in here, and the turbo downpipe over there somehow. We will figure that out. Now the gear stick I think comes back to a nice healthy position right here, so that's a bonus. I've got the air blower, the leaf blower, and blew all the crap out from down inside there on both sides. And that's where we are with the cab. I think there's a high tunnel cover here. I'm not sure if I've got the regular one or there's a high cover one available as well. I'm going to research that some more. Mine's a little rusty, I might need to find another one. But it will be shortened and modified to fit all that engine into there. And we got a temporary mock-up for the seat, and that's actually going to be pretty comfortable. Just got to figure that steering column out. Now I may have to put a bump in here. I'll do some fancy metal work to make this come along and hop up and back down again. That is nothing. Shaping metal is not a problem for me. To get the steering column up just I don't know, really only 1 inch. Get the steering column up 1 inch. Alright,
Let's go take a look at this.
Alright, here's the big Cummins. I have managed to take a lot of the excess wiring and hoses and everything off that I need. What I got to do next is take this air pump off, and that's the hydraulic pump for the power steering and hydro boost brakes. So this has all got to come off, and then find out how to mount this back up to the front here. I think I'll need an adapter of some kind, or maybe even a different pump that mounts directly up there. Either way, this has got to go because this is where the steering box wants to be. But the steering box, it'll all fit with just a little pump at the front, and the steering box will be in here. On this side, gonna dismount the lower radiator hose. I rotated the turbo up, and there is just enough under the hood to skim across the top here. Whoop. There is just enough under the hood to skim across the top, air to water back in. There is an air to water intercooler and intake system all in one that can go along here. It'll probably fit under the hood. I've just got to figure out whether it's worth it, because it does require the different set of injector lines, because these don't make way to mount that here. So I'll have to not only get that intake, which is a big square boxy looking thing, which is air to water integrated into this, but different lines. Alright, well, now to get the tape measure out again, and I think tape measure, take the bell housing bit off the back, take the fenders off, and we'll slide the cab in behind to see what needs clearancing for the firewall. Okay guys, so we've got the cab sitting on, the engine sitting in. The engine currently is sitting about 3 inches higher than where it will be. That's just so we can get around the cross member, which needs to be modified lower, and the starter motor is going to hit the cross member, so we're going to modify that too to let the motor drop 3 inches, and the cab is about 2 inches. Cab's got to come down about 2 inches, so that'll give us an extra inch. Maybe the cab will come down 1 inch. Basically we'll get the engine as low as we can, then we'll figure out where the cab's going to sit so that the engine will clear this lip here. This top of the engine is going to go under this lip by just a little bit. We'll have to reroute this breather tube to be a little shorter and drop over. Take these guys off. But it looks like possibly turbo is going to come into here. Oop, pan around. Turbo is going to come into this area here. Alright, good morning. Another day. And time has come. We got to break a few eggs. Time to cut into this. I don't think we're actually going to need all that much extra width here than I thought I needed. So that's good news. There she be. I tell you what, they should have built them like they used to. Alright guys, so she's on. Everything is about 2 inches higher than what it will be once we drop the engine 2 inches. Cab will come down 2 inches. But as you can see, we are just going to clear, at least with the intake stuff. We'll see what happens with the air conditioning. I imagine that's probably going to come up. Probably just touch the hood. We'll figure it out. We will figure it out. But we've got our measurement of 35 inches from the firewall to the back of the radiator. So we're going to lift the clip and put the front clip on in just a minute. But basically, there she be. So intrudes a little bit into the cab. Passenger side actually not too bad. Not too bad at all. Driver's side though, we gotta figure something out for an accelerator there. Alright, there we go. Engine's in. Front clip is on. Cab is on. Everything, as I said, going to drop 2 inches, which will give me plenty of clearance above air conditioner. Just, I bet, in a squeak. But that's okay. And sorry for the jerky. And look at that. We're going to actually, by the time I tilt this radiator up forward 3/4 inch at the top here, modifying this top bit, tilt the radiator up, get it forward 3/4 inch, we can actually move the whole engine forwards because we're not putting any fans or anything on this side. They're going to be pushes from the other side, from the front. We can move the engine forwards 2 inches, maybe even 2.5. I know we're grasping at 1/2 inches here, people, but yeah, maybe even 2.5. We will have to get that radiator hose moved when we have the radiator rebuilt, maybe. Modifying the hoses to fit different angles. I think with moving that engine forwards 2 inches and angling it down a little bit at the back, it could probably like drop 1 inch at the back even. I think our accelerator pedal issues are going to be minimal. And then over the winter, we'll get the chassis and the drivetrain all done over the summer. And then we can take the cab in the winter into the shop and work in out of the cold, wet, miserable winter here in the shop to get floor pans replaced, center hump done. As I say, I'll take some gear measurements of the gearbox here because that is going to change a little bit. Up under here, plenty of room. Alright, comment below who thinks it's going to clear the AC bracket. Woohoo! Who said yes? Now let's take a quick look and see by how much. Alrighty, for those of you who said no, you are pretty much correct. We are millimeters there, but we are going to gain about ½ an inch. And that's going to clear there. This is good. AC, let's see. I don't know. Maybe we need to modify that AC bracket to hang a little lower. Either way, it's damn close. Possibly not, but damn close. Alright guys, so I'm going to leave it there. Got a lot of work done and heading back to the big city. I got to go to work at some point, and we'll be back up here. It'll be another month before a video or any more work gets done, and then next time I come up we'll get working on getting that engine mounted in the chassis with everything cut out, lowered, engine mounts to the best that we can with the materials I'll bring with me, because I don't have much here. I have to bring the welder up. So there is potential. By the time we angle that engine down, we'll gain a quarter inch. Anyway, I really want AC, so we'll make that work somehow. Thanks for coming along. You know what to do if you want to keep up with this project or any of my others. While I'm down back at home, we'll get a little work done on Ivy as well. Getting back into it. Sorry about that. The black dog had a hold of me there for the winter. Some winters I'm good, some I'm not. So take it easy. We'll see you next time, guys.